Hey friends, today I'm making a diorama of an epic battle between Viking warrior Santa and a turkey dragon who will be breathing fire. This diorama is for Boyle Hobby Time's monthly art challenge with the theme Unexpected Gifts, so Santa's gift they're fighting over is going to be leftover Halloween candy. To make this diorama, I'll need to learn to use a lot of tools and techniques for the very first time, like feathers for the turkey and an airbrush and LED lights for the fire effect. If this sounds like a cool project to you, stick around and we'll learn how to make it together. First, I condition the crumbly polymer clay so that's pliable. Anyone working with polymer clay has to do this, even with brand new clay. I use a different kind of clay to mock up the scene for an idea of scale and composition. I can't harden this oil clay, so it isn't good for the final product, but it's useful for this. As I sculpt the head, I'm building it on a wire clamped in a wooden dowel. The wire gives the clay structure, and the dowel gives me something firm to hold on to. That's important, because if I held the clay directly, I might ruin the details. I print out a sheet of reference pictures to serve as a mood board. I won't be copying it exactly, but without references, making the first marks on a blank blob of clay is intimidating. I keep referencing my template to make sure I'm not making it too big. I call this step starting over because I screwed up. It's an important step in every project. The issue is that the foil and wire I'm using as a base is rotating freely, which defeats the purpose of it being a firm base to work off of. After practicing, it's time to start what should hopefully be the final sculpt. I'm using a utility blade to mark lines of symmetry and lines where the facial features should be to help me keep proportions realistic. The idea from this diorama was in part from seeing a dragon diorama and thinking, hey, it would be neat to do that, but with feathers. The idea to have this turkey dragon fighting Santa grew out of a debate among friends about how early is too early to start listening to Christmas music and setting up Christmas decorations. For many, the correct answer was the very day after Halloween, which upset the Thanksgiving celebrators. You could say this diorama is a metaphor or allegory for the war between people who think Christmas should stay in December versus those who celebrate it November to February and are trying to gain even more ground. I'm not super happy with how this turned out, but I'm still new to polymer sculpting. I'll get better with practice, and this is good enough for now. Now I'm starting the armature for the body. I start with a strong skeleton, then bulk it out with foil. This way I won't have to use as much clay, and if the layer of clay is thinner, it'll also bake easier and more evenly without cracking. I'm wrapping the foil with thinner wire to help the clay grip. Now it's time for the starting over because I screwed up step again. This skeleton is being floppy and difficult, so I'm deciding it's better to start over sooner rather than later. But I'm back with a better try at Santa's bod. Every step of this project is taking a lot longer than you think, but a lot of the footage isn't interesting. It isn't any more interesting when I speed it up, but at least then the footage doesn't go to waste and you can appreciate the time that went into it. Using a Dremel, I'm trimming down Santa's neck to make it fit into his new body better. and then using liquid clay when attaching the already baked head to the unbaked body. This way, they'll bond together better when I bake them. It's time for Santa to get buff. There are parts of this sculpt, especially around the chest, that the shield will cover up later in the final sculpt. So knowing this, I left them sloppy. For the clothes, I roll out sheets of clay with a pasta machine, and then extrude tubes of clay with a clay extruder. I use a clay tool to help pose how he'll be holding the candy cane spear. Oh yeah, did I mention he'll be using a candy cane spear and a shield to fight off the turkey dragon. I'm using some fabric to add some fabric texture to where his clothes will be. I use a plastic cup to trace a circle for his shield. The flames will mostly cover the shield, so no point in making it too perfect. I'll sand down the edges later after it bakes to make it a little more smoothly circular. I can make the candy cane spear by wrapping part of a coat hanger in clay. It'll be easier to make it sharp by sanding it after I bake it. This worked a little too well, and I accidentally stabbed myself with it and drew blood. Using a variety of questionable techniques, I glue the shield and spear to Santa and give him his final bake. No more getting baked for Santa after this. Now I have an intimidating step before me. I need to run a brass tube through Santa that will run from the base of the diorama, through Santa, and into the turkey dragon to suspend him in flight. The flame will cover up the brass tube to make it look like the turkey is flying without any support. I don't have a big enough bit to drill all the way through, so I'm trying to drill from both sides and meet in the middle. Unsurprisingly, this took a lot of tries to get right. No worries, we can patch the holes with clay easily enough. It's time to paint, so of course we have Bob Ross joining us via the projector. I'm only laying down a base coat right now, so I'm not worrying about getting the perfect color. I am worrying about getting the candy cane stripes perfect and contiguous, but gave up knowing people wouldn't notice. Next time, I think I'd just use an actual candy cane. It would look better, why not? Turkey time. I'm sculpting the turkey on the brass rod that I'll insert through Santa and his shield to suspend the turkey over the seam. Like before, I'm starting just with the head so I can bake it to lock in the details, and I'll have a reference head for scale. Let's hope the reference actually helps me keep the scale correct. I have a sheet of references like before, but I'm having more fun sculpting the turkey. Once your turkey is breathing fire, you've already given up on realism, so there's more room to be creative with the details. With the turkey head baked, I have to lock it in place on the brass tube and extend some wiring for the body as the brass tube isn't long enough. I am very glad I made the head and neck separately and baked it, because working on the body without messing up the details in the neck would have been difficult. The body doesn't need to be very detailed because I'm going to cover it up with feathers, so I'm mostly focused on the primary shapes and detailing the transition area between the neck and the body. Now that I've baked the body, I'm drilling some holes to insert armature wire for the legs. I made these separate from the body because, in my experience, the thinner and smaller details are better done as separate steps. When you anchor them to a firm, already baked base, you don't have to worry about their fragility. The only trick is merging the new areas with the old. I don't know if it's the right way, but liberally using Bacon Bond, a type of liquid clay used as a glue, is working for me in this project so far. Back to painting with Bob Ross. The brass rod is coming in handy for something to hold on to while painting this turkey, even though that wasn't its purpose. I'm happier with how the turkey is coming out than how Santa did, but there's still a lot to do, like adding the feathers, not to mention the rest of the diorama, like making the fire effect with electronics and airbrushing, the snow, adding hair to Santa, and assembling the whole scene, so stay subscribed for part 2.